so it sort of swings out as if it's got a fat backside. I wanted the wood to contrast slightly with the beams and everything. Boobs. So I've chosen Tapio or Tapio or however you say it. I'm sorry if you're Finnish and I've just butchered your language. No, I don't imagine fat backsides when I do coasters. That'd be weird. 1,000 subs and this woody gets RMC'd. Hey everybody, how's it going? So thanks for coming to this very special episode where we ruin our frame rate in the game and we return to Raygate Lake for something very, very special. Because thanks to 1,000 of you, we have hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. And I am blown away by it. In fact, when I'm recording this, the 500 subscriber celebration hasn't even finished. That's just insane. I can't get my head around it. So thank you guys so much. Every single one of you who has subscribed and stayed, you are the bomb. And I have just given a 90s reference and I'm not even sorry. So, as promised, here we are back in Raygate Lake. We are going to give the RMC treatment to Tapio, our wooden coaster. So let's just refresh our memory of what Tapio actually is. So this is the wooden coaster that we built. It was the 250 subscriber special that we did. Hence the CCLs everywhere. Like you'll see them in the code and everything. And now we've got to change that. So you come around the first bend, you go into the lift hill, into the first drop, into a couple of bunny hops, then it travels around the park. It's a bit of an out and back coaster because it then goes round a bend, into a turnaround, spins underneath itself, and then comes the other way, does a figure of 8, and comes back to the station through here. So you already know how this has been because I'm sure a lot of you have seen the episode. So that is Tapio, and this is RMC Tapio. We did it! So, it does have a name, but I'm going to save that for the big reveal at the end because I've been working on some stuff with somebody else and there's a surprise coming for that, so can't wait to show you. And of course, I've been poring all over the documents that RMC have available on how they convert woodies and how they build them from the ground up and their design principles and everything, and I've tried my best to do everything on here. You can spot a massive gap already, so yes, of course, there's going to be custom supporting, but just fair warning on this, because Raygate Lake is so massive, I am going to need to make some creative decisions about where I custom support and where I don't. The in-game supports are okay, and I'll talk through that in a moment, but there's going to be some work that I'm going to need to do, but I'm not going to be able to do full custom supporting. It's just not feasible in Raygate Lake, I'm afraid. So that's just to manage your expectations. Let's go on a tour. So, in all of the documents that RMC give that aren't publicly available, but I've, they sort of say in their documents that they try and reuse as much of the original woody as possible. This includes all of the existing facilities, all of the existing queue line structure, all of the existing station structure, and of course the supports where possible, where they can be salvaged, can be saved, and then RMC just come along and add their own stuff to it. So, for this reason, the queue line is going to remain exactly the same thing. I just need to move the queue slightly because the lift hill structure has changed. But the maintenance shed, that remains in exactly the same place. The station remains in the same place, and it's just going to have some cosmetic touch-ups in the next update. There's nothing major that's going to be happening to it. And that's the RMC principle. They just come in, they take the woody, they replace the track with steel where possible. They salvage as much as they possibly can, and it's a way that they keep the costs down for the parks. So have that in the back of your mind, in case you're going to get disappointed that this isn't going to be a complete retheme. It wouldn't be a complete retheme in Raygate Lake because they would reuse as much as they possibly can. So, you come out the station and you come into the first turn. RMC is notorious for having turns like this that are not banked. This has got a real slight banking on it just to take the edge off because it does hit some speed at the bottom. But I did consider an outward bank like Untamed has got. Decided against it. It was going around the bend too fast for it to actually make sense. So unbanked, and it comes round this way. It then enters into a dip, an airtime dip, which of course I've left it in place actually, so you can see where the existing lift hill structure was. The lift hill on the woody started here, but now because we can do a steeper incline lift hill, it makes sense to have a little bunny hop airtime hill. And then we come into the lift hill. So this is at 40 degrees. So they can go up to, I think, 60 degrees for the RMCs, but they don't recommend it. 40 degrees is the recommended. 45 is like the almost optimal. So we've gone for 40. And we've just got that classic shaping over the top. This is the steepest that this track will allow in-game. It's 85 degrees. Of course, we're saying for the lore of the park, this would have been built before Steel Vengeance and before Iron Gwazi. So this would be around the time of Zadra, around the time of Untamed, and of course around the time of Wildfire. So that's where it's going to be placed in the history of RMC, if you like. So don't expect to see Steel Vengeance and Iron Gwazi kind of stuff here. But of course you've got the classic shape, and yes, I'm going to custom support the lift hill. I'm not. Should I just leave it blank? Should I just leave it like this and just call it done? Yeah, so down into the drop. Then of course it follows exactly the same course, because they would reuse as many of the supports as much as they possibly can. So into the first turn, but we come into the wave stall hang time airtime thing. I don't really know. Different documents call it different things. So let's just call it a hang time airtime hill. Do you know what? Let me know in the comments below what you call it, because I bet we'll find loads of people will call it different things. So the way that these work is they flip really quickly. So Rmc transitions are a bit like B&M transitions. They flip really quickly, but they have to sort of like gradually go around and then suddenly flip. So the way that you achieve this here is you come into your bend at full on 0 degrees, you then turn it to 45 degrees, you turn it to 90 degrees, and then you go straight to 180. You need your offset on to just under 2 meters, and then that creates that flip, that whip that everything has with RMC. So that's what I've done here. It comes up 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and then it flips. And then you just continue it over the top of the lift hill, of the airtime hill, and then you reverse those angles when you're coming back down. The angle of ascent and descent is completely up to you. It's completely dependent on the coaster. So you can see on this one, I've got a steeper inset than I have a descent. And that's done by design because I wanted it to be a bit smoother here, because this is quite intense. So as you can see, this bit here is quite intense for the game. So I wanted it to come out at a bit of a shallower angle, but you needed it to come in at a steeper angle so that you can kill some of the speed, so you can flip the riders and it still be comfortable, and you create the hang time stall. So then it comes into the head chopper. So that's the same head chopper that we had before. And then we come into a wave hill. And these are incredibly easy, but so difficult to master. They are literally, the bottom, it starts at 0 degrees, and then you roll it to 90 degrees, and then you roll it back to 0 degrees. But you have to start your roll really close to the bottom of the lift hill. So again, it's the same principle, but this time I went 22, 45, 90, and then it's all 4 meter method. So you just then go through that way, but then you have to sort of have it at 90 by about, so if you're using the 4 meter method, you have it at 90 about here, you allow it to continue at 90 all the way through, and then you do about the same on the opposite side when you start to roll it back, and then by the time you do your smoothing method with the 4 pieces, and then it starts to smooth it out for you, and you get this wave turn. Now when it's on ride, it actually feels like you're going round a bend, but you're not. So anyway, it rides perfectly. And then we come into this way, and it comes into a really steep overbanked hill. So this follows the same pattern. It's slightly higher than the old one, but again, this is where they would start to reuse some of the supports and everything that are in here. Then it comes into a steeper drop than the original Tapio did, because it's obviously higher. So it's higher here, but the same height here. That means you've got a steeper drop to come into here, and you get a bit more forces. And then this one is another one that's a lot higher. So the old profile of the coaster is actually sort of more this way, and then it comes into here, and by this time it's starting to run out of momentum, and then it comes down the hill. So for this one, I wanted to bring it all the way up to kill some speed, and then it comes down into an ejector airtime hill, round the bend, and then into a 0G roll. Now the 0G roll for this one is drawn out because it's taking it quite a bit of speed look, so it's quite drawn out so that it's a bit more comfortable, and it actually works on a similar principle as the ones do on the Smiler, where they on the first drop. So it comes around the bend, continues the roll, but the actual track is descending, and then it goes into a curve, into a bunny hop, which is the same bunny hop that we had before, but this is then where it's different, because it goes into a double down. So whereas before the bunny hop was more like this way, and then it came up towards here, this now goes into a double down. I don't know if you can see it because the trees are in the way. Let me tell you what, let's move the tree so you can see it. There we go. So it comes into a double down and then into the airtime hill. But I wanted this to be more of a stall turn because of this drop. So Wildfire has this absolutely amazing ending where you think that it's about to run out of momentum and you think it's about to come to an end, but actually it goes into a stall turn and then does another pretty steep drop, and it just takes you by surprise. So that's what I wanted to do here. Bring it round a stall turn into the drop and into the existing brake run that's already there. Then it comes off the brake run, follows the same pattern, but goes into another whippy 0G roll. So the same principle applies with this 0G roll as the hang time, air time thing, in the sense that you go 0 degrees, 45, 90, straight to 100, and then back out 90, 45, and into a turn. So it comes into a really whippy 0G roll. This turn is slightly more drawn out because of the speed that this is now doing coming off of the brake run. It's probably about 13% faster coming off this brake run than Tapio would have been. So this as a result is now more drawn out, but then it comes into a more drawn out slight double down. So you've got a little bit of airtime pop coming off of this drop here, but it's not a complete double down. It's just a bit of a smaller double down, if that's the way to describe it. And then it comes into another a wave hill. And I wanted this to be here because of the near miss element and fear element of Project X and this concrete wall here. So I wanted this idea. There's one coming around now, so I'll be able to show you. I wanted this idea of having the near miss element where it comes through the 0G roll. You're still disorientated. You come round the bend, down to the small double down, and then into this one, and then down into the head chopper. So that's exactly what I wanted that one to be. And then it just ends in the same way that the old one does, but this time, because it's still travelling a little bit loud, because it's still travelling just that little bit faster, there's just slight banking on this turn, whereas Tapio didn't have banking here. It was slow enough to actually be fine. And then it just goes into the brake run in exactly the same way that it all did before. It's all exactly the same layout. Like I say, this shed would be completely preserved. RMC would do their best just to convert the track. So what I do need to do, though, is I just need to re-add in the transfer track, because obviously that's in as Tapio at the moment. So that's obviously gone with the coaster. So this is how it looks. I have preserved Tapio. So where did I put it? Here we go. So I can overlay it so you can see it. Now where's my arrow, because I have lost my arrow. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. I couldn't find it. It was buried over in the hotel, so I would never have found it even if I was trying to look for it live. So this is Tapio overlaid on top of RMC Tapio. So you can see that the lift hill is really different. The profile of the first drop is very different. And then it just follows this one. So the hang time, air time thing is way higher than the original first drop was. It follows the same profile here, and it comes round the bend and it follows the same profile. This is what I was saying when the bits were higher. So you can see the sheer difference in size here and speed that is coming through this, and it also dips lower. So RMC Tapio dips lower but then comes up higher at this point, so it creates a bit more airtime as you're going through it, a bit more excitement on the old ratings on the Planet Coaster, like that, you see. And then we come around this way into the double down. So there's the difference in the profiling there. Essentially hits the same low point, and then it's a real different profile of bend here. It's not so tight to the actual track. Again, this is because it's a stall turn, and then it comes in, follows the same profile as the existing brake run, and then it comes down round into the 0G roll, which again follows the same footers, the same everything that you'd find here. And then this is the reprofiled bend, and then it comes into the reprofiled wave, but again it's using the same direction, and then it just comes in and finishes. So that is all of the track layout. So like I say, I've tried my best to do as much as I can in terms of realism for RMC. Now there are some limitations to the game. There's some things that you can't do with the game that RMC do allow you to do. So things like where the supports are and how the track overlays itself and whatever. So my next portal call then is to do the custom supporting. Just to remind you, I need to take some creative liberties when I'm doing the custom supporting. It's not going to be a full custom supporting machine. I wish I could. I really wish I could. But a million pieces, guys, it's already struggling. The game's already crashed 4 times just doing the track. So I just can't do it. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. But I'm going to try my best. So let's see how this is going to turn out. Alright then, you guys, so I'm pretty much done, and we've got a name and all sorts. So for this one, I actually reached out to Spike Gordon just to say thank you for all of the support that he's shown this channel since we actually started. So, for example, being a blueprint for Reel Up My Ride, right through to those awesome submissions that he gave last week for Fundy Fun Spot. So I actually wanted him to name Rmc Tapio, and the only thing that I really asked for was to incorporate the letter M so that we could, you know, bring this whole Roman numerals thing back in again. Just so, you know what, not only did Spike come up with a name, Morigu, he also sent this through as well. This is completely unprompted and lovely. It's a message from Spike, and it says, "Hi Aaron and everybody watching. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of Raygate Lake. This truly is an honour. I've been an avid watcher and supporter of your contribution to the community, and have enjoyed watching your channel grow. I remember starting to watch you from episode 1, Reel Up My Ride. Back when you were still under 100 subs. Oh, do you remember those days? Celebrity now's darling. Look at you now. Cringe. Look at you now, king amongst men. You've given myself and many others something to look forward to each week, and given us so much inspiration. The only way I can thank you is by making the best buildings for Fundy Fun Spot and the best ride sign for the RMC. Anyway, I'm going to stop waffling before I word salad too much. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, and one more thing. Beams. So Spike, thank you so much. That was like proper lovely words from somebody who's followed the channel from the very beginning. That really was touching. You didn't need to do any of that. You didn't need to do any of the ride signs. Just needed to come up with a name, and you just took it one step further. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, genuinely from the bottom of my heart, thank you. So we've got ourselves a name, it's Morigu, and Spike has also given me a bit of backstory for this as well, and I'm about to butcher some words. So we've got ourselves another mythical being, but this time it's from Irish Celtic, not Scottish, Irish Celtic origin, and it's a being that's famous for shape-shifting. So if you think of like Woody to RMC, that kind of makes sense. And he's also the brother of Cuchulainn, which also happens to be the name of the Woody at Tato Park in Ireland as well. So Spike, you literally couldn't have chosen a better name for this. This is just absolutely perfect. So here we go, let's go for a tour. So nothing much has changed with the actual layout itself. I've kept all of that the same, but there's a few design principles that I've needed to put in. So of course we're going through this idea of branding everything, and we're going through the Raygate, let's do it as cheap as possible, but as proper as possible. So we start here on the lift hill where we've got our proper supports put in, and when you're dealing with a lot of lag when you're building something like this is so difficult, but I'm so pleased with how this turned out. Now, in order to achieve this, I had to actually turn all of the supports and everything off, so I ended up having to do a custom catwalk up the side of the lift hill. So that's kind of what I've done there. So it looks good. It looks pretty much like Wildfire's actually, a mixture of Wildfire and Zadra lift hill. So I've used the proper specifications. The supports are in exactly the right place where they should be to be able to support everything from the top down. And then of course you've got the spine support that just supports the first drop. So then we come into the actual layout, and what I've done along here is I've sort of pinpointed some areas where the ground would now need some extra support because we're throwing a train around the track rather than the Woody. So I've had to put a load of rocks down, and this solidifies the ground that you're using when it comes to supports. So yeah, I've sort of put this down. It creates a bit more of a bed for you to work with, and it stops the land from slipping as much because it would have to move the rocks and everything. And then you also put foliage and everything around just to bind the roots and everything together, so it makes the ground stronger. So that's what we've done here. I have tried my best to do some custom supporting, but as I said before we did this update, I'm only doing it where it's really necessary and as minimum as possible. So the in-game supports are actually quite good, but the supports for an actual RMC of this nature are so dense and so incredibly massive that it would take, firstly, forever to do it, and secondly, I just don't have the piece count in Raygate Lake to do it. So I've just accented it off with the extra supports that we did, like we did for the original Tapio. So then over here, I've done exactly the same principle. Loads of rocks around just to support all of the edges and everything. And also just along here as well, because we've now got a lot of vibration that's coming from these because the trains are travelling much faster. So the land would obviously vibrate and slip, whereas with the woody it wouldn't be so much because the supports would dampen it. And then along here I've just reinforced this concrete wall with some more rocks for exactly the same reason, and I've also widened the head chopper as well so that now fits perfectly. So this bend again has had lots of reinforcing going on to it, and then we come around this way, a few more custom supports that I've touched up and everything into the dip, and then we come around the turnaround, and again this has had its foundations reinforced by more rocks as we come round. So the stress points of this particular part would be the low point here and this bit here where the train is trying to be turned, so it would need some extra supports and it needs just some reinforcement on the ground, so that's what I've put in there. And we come around this way into the double down, and of course the double down is actually now deeper than it was originally, so all of the ground around it would still need to be reinforced, particularly as we're carrying weight from the supports here, we're carrying weight from the supports here, and we're also carrying weight from the supports here. So there's a lot of weight that's now been put onto this ground that we've just excavated, which was originally a pretty stable hill. So these have now got the retaining walls in and the retaining rocks in, just to make sure that that's all good to go. And then we come around into the brake run, which you've already seen. Then we come around this way, just some more supports down this side, retaining wall being reinforced this way, and then we come into the final brake run. And of course, the final brake run in the original Tapio was supposed to be a little bit overgrown, but because this is now just recently refurbed, it's not so overgrown anymore, so it's now sort of been tidied up. And I've just added in the bird emblem as well that's been included with the pack that Spike gave me for the ride signs. So coming over to the actual station, then there's been a few changes to the station. So the bins and everything have all been recoloured. The queue down the bottom, that's now been reconfigured, so it no longer comes this way up the hill, it comes out the back of the cattle pen underneath the lift hill. So that all now makes sense. I've added in the ride sign facing the queue, so you now know what ride you're queuing for, in case you've forgotten. And then I've also just put the ride sign on the back or on the side of the photo building just to fill that spot. I kind of wish I'd put the Tapio one there actually, but it's fine. The station hasn't changed any in design, but it's just had like touch-up work done. So it's had paint work done to most of the station, but I purposely wanted to leave. Oh, come on, trees, get out of the way! I purposely wanted to leave this bit here as if it was the Tapio station, like they'd just forgotten to do it. But all of the stuff along here has been repainted red, and I've also added in the same castle blocks or the Gothic blocks that Spike had built the signs to be placed upon. So I thought that was actually a really nice touch. This is something that they would probably come in and retrofit just to make it sort of look as if it's had something new, but it's the real cheap way of doing it. Of course, it needs a ride sign on the front. Tapio never had one. It was just a station building, an empty station building, so they're going to be making some effort. So there we go. There's the Morrigu station sign. The big M to represent the 1,000. So I've moved the CCL, the 250 down, and now pride of place is the M for the 1,000. And of course, it's just had everything painted red on the inside because that's a colour scheme. Chose red, by the way. Well, actually, Spike chose red because it's his favourite colour. So of course we're going to honour that. So that's why we've got the red. But I didn't want to use the in-game red that this track is. I wanted it to be a darker red. So that's what we've gone for, obviously. And then coming over to the photo booth. No actual build changes to this. It's all cosmetic. So like I've recolored this panel to be grey so that the white of the Morrigu stands out more, and then the black of the bird then stands out against the white of the wall. Put the emblem of the bird on the side here, repainted the stuff red because it was originally orange, and then repainted this red as well to match the actual station. And then inside I put the white, well, it's actually the grey, it's the grey of the track, pillars in, and the back wall has been painted red as well. So it actually looks, oh, and I've just changed out the oh, I didn't do the front ones. I've changed out the back pictures. So yeah, it looks like a whole new building, but it's not a whole new building. It just takes on a new form because it's got the new color scheme. And do you know what? I think I prefer this to the original Tapio building. This looks like a much better color scheme. It looks a lot fresher and a lot more modern. So this is the big one the big view that we made then of Tapio when it was there, and how it poked over the top of the courtyard, and now it's a completely different view. It's now just this steel monstrosity of everything. And I shared this image on Reddit and Facebook, and it just blew up. Everyone was just like, oh my god, this looks amazing. And I like how this is now sitting. So it's still got that mystery to it. It's still got that hidden behind everything. You still can't see the entire ride, but it's now just completely different. It's now just a whole new ride experience. And then coming to the queue, the front of the queue has now completely changed as well. So I wanted to spam around the sign and everything. So I wanted to make a feature of the M, because obviously it's the Roman numeral for 1,000. So that's now there with all of the ride signs and everything. This awesome setup from Spike just sits perfectly. And then I built this little church-style gazebo. I wanted it to have this gothic feeling to it because of the backstory of the Irish Celtic deity and everything. So I wanted to have this here as something new. You know, they've made the effort, but all in the wrong places, just to really paper over the cracks. And then they just put the logo on the front, and then just some new signs for the main queue and the fast pass. So guys, that's Morrigu. That's the RMC version of Tapio, and I really hope that you like it. I really hope I've done a good enough job with the park file that I've got. And obviously, if this was an empty park file, it would have customer supports and everything, but you know, it is what it is. So guys, thank you so much for coming along. We're going to take a ride on this in a minute. Just be aware, obviously, with the frame rate, I'm going to try my best to get the best POV that I possibly can. So I think it should be okay. I've ridden it a couple of times and it looks okay. So, but once again, thank you to all 1,000 of you that joined and made this episode possible. Every single one of you mean the world to me. And here's to another 1,000 in the coming days. That would be nice, wouldn't it? In the coming year. I guess it's the road to 10,000. What's next? Do you roast me at 10,000? Should we do a roast at 10,000? You get to say some awful things about me to my face. I like that idea. Okay, anyway, I'm word salading because that's what I do best, right? So thank you guys so much, and of course, until we speak again, please look after yourselves. Take care. Bye bye.